So we're here to talk about 2030, the vision. Talk to me about how important and how confident are you that this economy will be able to diversify away from oil?
Well, we have many of the ingredients for success in Saudi Arabia. We have a competitive advantage in location. We have a competitive advantage in infrastructure. We have plenty funding available from the government funding institutions. And we have great enterprises, certainly at the macro level, big companies like Aramco, SABIC, our mining company, our telecommunication company, our banks. All of these companies are global. They're used to partnering and they're used to creating other big enterprises. Aramco, for example, where I used to be the CEO, created a huge platform with Dow and Sadara, over $20 billion, within budget, within schedule, and it's already generating a lot of profits. And we have these huge legacy partnerships with companies like Exxon and Shell and Chevron that are also money-generating machines in the petrochemical refining sector. What we want to do through Vision 2030 is take it yet to a higher level where we have differentiated joint investments that bring in technology, know-how, brands from our American partners, but at the same time capabilities of project execution and access to regional markets as well as the very large Saudi market. So the diversification will be built on a competitive advantages that exist, including energy, but they're not going to be limited to energy-intensive industry.
And Minister, of course, the price of oil is extremely important in being able to deliver this vision for 2030. There's an OPEC meeting coming up. How confident are you? Which countries have given you their support for production cut extension of 9 months?
Everybody I have talked to has agreed with the Saudi-Russian proposal to have a 9-month rather than a 6-month proposal. And so I'm fairly confident that we will be able to bring that together with the full agreement of all countries that were part of the December 2016 agreement. I would also add that inventories are coming down. We've seen that a number of successive weeks now where U.S. inventories are coming down. But if you look broadly at the global inventory levels, it's even more pronounced. OECD and non-OECD floating storage is being offloaded into tanks and consumed. We're coming into a high demand season with the second and third quarter already upon us. So I think everything is coming together with consensus amongst producers, demand rising. We see global economy is doing well. Japan, Europe, the U.S. are all doing reasonably well economically. So we're fairly optimistic.
Minister, were there any countries that you think are against the extension? You said you think you have the support of the ones that you spoke to.
I have not spoken or heard of any country that is against the extension per se. Everybody wants the extension because we realize we have not achieved our objective of bringing global inventories to the 5-year average.
Are you concerned that the market is already pricing all the production cuts in, meaning that it'll be very difficult to wow the market?
Well, I'm not looking to wow the market, and I'm not looking for a specific price. I've said that repeatedly. What we're looking for is an agreement and a consensus and clarity for the market that we are steady as we go. We're committed to that, getting inventories to that 5-year average, that there is stewardship of the market by a large group of producers, OPEC and non-OPEC, working together. And I think that should encourage investment. My objective clearly is clarity on where the market is going so that the people invest. I am less concerned about prices and market over the next 12 months than I am after 3 years, end of this decade, when supplies may be short, demand will be approaching 100 million barrels, and we have the annual decline that is taking place. And unless we invest and we overcome this decline with new significant capacity coming in, we will face a shortage. And we in Saudi Arabia don't want the market to be squeezed.
Minister, and I understand that you're not targeting a price. I understand that you don't want to talk about a price. But I've been covering OPEC for many years, almost 2 decades. And the shale producers are now part of the equation. So let's say your production cut extension don't have the effect that you wanted longer term. Would you think of overpumping so that the price goes down and you squeeze the Americans out?
That has never been part of the calculus. We never overpump to squeeze anybody out. I think supply and demand need to balance, and we've said that Saudi Arabia has a spare capacity. OPEC will do what is necessary. We feel that the market structure was off a few years ago with the divergence between supply and demand, and any OPEC action in 2014 would not have done the job in terms of cutting. So with the restructuring of supply-demand trajectories that took place over the last 2 years, OPEC now is able to calibrate its supply with our great partners from outside to bring the supply-demand balance together, bring inventories down, and give clarity for investment to flow back into the industry.
Minister, two final questions, one on OPEC and one on the forum. On OPEC, can you talk me through your thinking of if certain countries decide not to cut production, will Saudi Arabia take the brunt of it and cut production more?
The whole premise of what we entered into last year is collective responsibility. And I'm glad to say that although there are some deviations that we're working on fixing, that overall the numbers speak for themselves. They have been well reported. We have historic levels of commitment that have been actually delivered by the producers, not only from OPEC, but countries that have really never been part of such an initiative to manage their production. They have delivered well in totality, and I think the markets have responded positively as we've seen, and therefore Saudi Arabia is counting on that record, good as it is, to be improving over time, and the burden sharing to be complete. And I don't accept that Saudi Arabia or any other country should pick up the slack from others. We did go the extra mile initially to set an example and be a role model, and I think our colleagues have appreciated that and have responded positively.
Minister, one final question, because we saw the success of a lot of the partnership of Aramco. Again, what kind of advice would you give to a lot of CEOs wanting now to invest in Saudi Arabia?
Well, I think the record speaks for itself. Saudi Arabia has been a platform for profitability, for prosperity, for success, for all of our partners from the U.S. and elsewhere who took a bet on the country back in the 70s and 80s. And I'm not just talking about accessing the oil concession of the legacy American companies that came here back in, earlier of the previous century. But companies that came into manufacturing, into refining, into chemicals have really done well. Very few companies, if any, have done less than what they had hoped for. So we have a track record of being a great platform for people to prosper. We're entering into a new field with Vision 2030, where we want differentiated industries. We want industries that are built on a competitive advantage of technology, know-how, capabilities, including Saudi skill capabilities. And we believe that those ingredients are in place now, including Saudi partners from the private sector, not just Saudi Aramco. And we call on investors from the U.S. and elsewhere to come and take advantage of it.